Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining my session, my story, my journey, surviving domestic violence. I am Michelle Anderson, state organizer for the Afia Center. I'm also a Greater Than AIDS National Ambassador and former 2011 Miss Plus America. Today, I'm going to share with you my story on how I survived domestic violence. Some of what I'm about to share with you today may resonate in a way that could trigger some feelings about your own personal experiences. As at the end of this session, please speak with someone who can help you process through your feelings. It is perfectly okay to seek the help you need to recover. In order for you to understand how I found myself in many relationships of abuse, I felt it important to talk about relationships of abuse. I felt it important to talk about my childhood. It is because of my childhood trauma I experienced set the tone of how I made decisions. These decisions were altered due to the sexual abuse at the age of 4. When my sister was born, I thought my mother and father stopped loving me. In some ways, it was perpetuated within their own behaviors. So I started looking for love in all the wrong places. Because of this, I was molested. And since I had no outlet to share my trauma, I began to act out. My parents took me to a psychologist who told me they told them to lock me up in a room and on that day, I told myself that this is what happens to bad little girls, and this is what you deserve. After leaving Germany, the sexual abuse would continue, this time with members of the family and their friends. I believe this was how you showed love. I believe that if someone wasn't touching me, that meant that they didn't love me. But some love was better than no love, and I was okay with it. Finding out that my father really wasn't my father devastated me. But in my mind, I processed it as being why he didn't love me. I also believe that my real father didn't love me either, because if he did, he would have never left me. For the first time in my life, I felt unloved and unworthy of love, and I somehow did something wrong to not deserve the love I was looking for. But what I was willing to accept is some love rather than no love at all. By the time I was 15 years old, I had low self-esteem. I was overweight and uncomfortable in my own skin. The first time someone paid interest in me, I fell hook, line, and sinker. He pressured me into having sex with him, and if I didn't, he would threaten to leave me. So I did it. 9 months later, I found out I was pregnant. After my mother took me to the doctor, my parents cussed me out. They told me I wasn't going to amount to anything, and that because of my mental capacity, I was going to always need a man to take care of me. I believe them. Because of this belief, I found myself involved in a violent relationship with a 34-year-old man 2 years later. He would beat me for the hell of it. He would deny me and my daughter of food. He would make me stay in the room, and if I came out, he would beat me in front of his family. It had gotten so bad that my hair began to fall out. I noticed knots and bruises on my daughter. I didn't know how to leave. I was afraid that I would not be able to take care of myself or my daughter. I thought I needed him. I excused his actions away, and I blamed myself for his behavior, his violent behavior. But one day I had enough. And since he wasn't just going to let me leave, I gathered all the strength and courage I mustered to pick up a 2x4 and wear his butt out. I was able to escape with nothing but the clothes on my daughter's back. I moved back in with my mother and my father, and exactly 2 weeks later, I would find out I was miscarrying his baby because of all of the physical abuse. I started experimenting. I think I was like about 21 or so, I started 19 or 20, I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. It helped me to cope with the hurt and pain. It also allowed me to become the life of the party. The more I drank, the more I felt accepted. And during that time, I met my son's father, but quickly ended the relationship because I thought he was too soft. Now I know today that because he wasn't putting his hands on me, he didn't love me. And that says a whole lot about physical abuse. I ended up getting married 2 years later. The marriage was okay. I was young and in love. He played in a band, and I was smitten by his charismatic ways. Once we moved to Ohio, his behavior and attitude began to change. He started to become verbally and financially abusive. He would leave me at home all day without food. Since I was friendly with the neighbors, I spent most of my time with them, and they fed me and my children. And they also helped me get connected to resources to help me take care of my kids. One day he came home and we were arguing. He told me to get out and that he was having an affair. Since I would not leave, he dragged me by the collar of my shirt and pushed me down a flight of stairs. I became enraged, and as I was about to get up, his brother came up from behind me and hit me in the mouth with his cast. I can't quite remember what happened next, but I do know the next day I waited for him to leave, and I planned to pack up what I could and leave for a shelter. Once I got into a safe place, I called my family and ended up moving back to Texas. Again, I found myself full of guilt, shame, and hopelessness, and I felt defeated. So in order for me to feel again, I started looking for love again. I ended up pregnant again for the fourth time by a man who I was only needing for financial support. I eventually signed up and received public housing and started another relationship with a gang member. It ended after finding out he molested my daughter and was sent to jail for 25 years. Since I was struggling to take care of my children, I put them in foster care and started using drugs to not feel the pain and loss of my family. Although I was able to get back with them, my drug use took over my life. I started sex working and stole out of stores to feed, clothe, and shelter myself. Crime finally caught up with me, and I was in and out of jail, finally making it to a rehab. And in April of 1999, I found out I was HIV positive. Who was gonna love me? That was the first thing I thought about. I'm going to die. What am I going to tell my children? I was devastated. So I called my mother and shared with her my diagnosis. And she said if I hadn't been doing what I was doing, I would have gotten what I got, and hung the phone up on me. I cried. I cried so deep I felt as though my soul was leaving my body. After completing treatment, I stayed clean for 2 years and relapsed because I never dealt with the issues that began at 4 years old. I got involved in 2 other relationships that was just as violent as the others. When I found myself on my deathbed from all the drugs and not in treatment, for HIV, I decided to turn my life around and get my life in order. Once I got back to Texas, yes, I was a traveling dope fiend. I looked for places to get HIV treatment and education. After attaining housing with the help of my daughter and getting ID, I was finally connected to life-saving and life-changing resources. I enrolled back in school and was finally reunited with 2 of my children. Since I did not want to live on public assistance for the rest of my life, I found a part-time job to supplement an already unrealistic and unlivable monthly income. I found myself lonely, and got involved again in another abusive relationship. But this time it was different because I began to work on my past issues after volunteering with the Affairs Center. I wasn't taking mess from nobody else, and he quickly got the boot. The Affairs Center provided me with information on systemic oppression and how it played a role in me not being able to catch a break, and how my diagnosis was not based on behavior, but of all those things that happening at the same time created my HIV risk. I took what I learned and found my voice, and I began to educate and facilitate change in other lives of Black women. Today I looked in the mirror and believe what others said about me. My own perception of who I was and had already been altered at the age of 5 by sexual abuse. As I grew older, those lies became my truth, my reality. It took me years to realize the love and acceptance I was searching for started with me loving on me. When I stopped looking at trying to find out ways to fix the external part of me, the internal side of me was what needed to be worked on. You know, once I began to do that, I began to live again. I began to believe in myself again. I began to love myself again. I started to trust my decisions that I was making, not only for myself, but for my children. I began to have hope in knowing that I can live beyond my diagnosis. I can live beyond the sexual, the physical abuse that I had suffered my whole entire life. I also began to forgive not only myself, but I began to forgive all those people who had harmed me, because I knew that in forgiveness I would be healed. And because of this, I began to breathe and live my life out loud and beyond everything that everybody said that I was going to be. One thing that I learned that during this process, that love didn't hurt like that. Love didn't hurt at all. Physical abuse was not something that I deserved. You know, I was worthy of more than what I was getting. You know, and my children deserve to more than what they saw their mother going through. My journey has allowed me the ability to go back to school and get my degree in substance abuse counseling. I was reunited with all of my children. They all came home, and they came home with 6 grandchildren. I share my story on national platforms again in hopes to facilitate change in other people's lives. I now I'm making a livable and thrivable wage. And it is my hope that I continue to use my story to afford people the ability to regain control of regain control of their lives, but also let people know that they have the ability to live beyond abuse. You know, I took what I learned and I found my voice. I had to share my story on national levels in hopes to educate and on all forms of violence. And if you are in a domestically violent situation, there is help. You can call the National Domestic Hotline at 1-800-799-7233, or you can go online at www.thehotline.org to chat with someone. Get the help you need so that you and your family can get back to the life you richly deserve. And because I was able to get because of the Affairs Center and getting the information I needed to begin to deal with the trauma that I have lived throughout my life, I began to live out loud. And because of this, I made history by becoming the first openly HIV positive woman to ever run for and win a national pageant title of 2011 Miss Plus America. Here's some of the work that I do as a state organizer. The AFIA Center uses this sexual and reproductive health of Black women and girls to address systemic oppression. And so I've been able to use my story and able to use the education I received from the AFIA Center to talk nationally about some of the things that are happening in our community and why we need to end systemic oppression of Black women. This is my story, and I hope that you can get the help that you need. If you know someone, again, who is in a situation that they feel that they can't get out of, you can always give them my number, have them contact me. I can walk through with them the necessary steps that they need so they can stay safe and get out of the situation that they are currently in. I am now finished with my presentation and open to discussion. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you all.